Well, I think, in fact, I just one of the reasons why I'm late, I've just was doing an online interview with a media group, and they virtually asked me the same thing. It was kind of a loaded question because they're quite supportive, and they've been watching the various polls that have coming out. They saw the rally that we had in Auckland, which still blows me away how we packed out that Logan Campbell Centre, and they basically said, why do people need to vote for you? Well, number one is to defend our country, our democracy, protect our personal freedoms, protect our economy, which has been absolutely devastated. This country is being rammed into such unbelievable debt levels that appear to be at the hands of a government that cannot be restrained from spending. This government right now is giving out as many lollies as it can to what I call fund bribe people into voting for them in this next election, and we need to stop that because the ferryman has to be paid, and never forget the money that they are so-called handing out is the very money that they are getting in debt with for in your name. It's your money, it's our money. They're not giving anything that is to us that is theirs. It's all of ours, and they're doing it with unrestrained fervour. The other reason is this government also, as many people know, they are aiming at some incredibly concerning activities at democracy in New Zealand that have us completely concerned. We are seeing the attacks on small business owners and operators. We are seeing the destruction of people's wealth that they've worked all their lives for. The Green Party wants to suggest an inheritance tax of up to 40%. So that if your mum and your dad or your nanny or your pop die and they've worked all their lives and they've paid tax on the money and they leave you a little nest egg to help you in life, they want to tax it again, 40% of it. Now they're coming up with another law where they're going to end up destroying what houses people can rent. By how? By saying to landlords that every 90 days they have to pay every 90 days, landlords have to give tenants 2 weeks free rent, which nobody can afford unless you're super wealthy. Most of the people that I know, I don't have a rental property, but most people that I do are hanging on to their rental properties by the skin of their teeth, and now they want to introduce a law where every 90 days you've got to give 2 weeks free rent. On top of that, you've got to allow your tenants to have 2 antisocial behaviour tantrums in your property every 90 days. That includes smashing windows, kicking holes and punching holes in your walls, doing whatever they want, but you've got to allow for 2 of those per 90 days. And if you want to get rid of them, you've got to have a tribunal where the interests of the tenant are ahead of that of the owner. So what is that going to cause? That's going to cause houses, which are in short supply already, to come off the stock, to come off the market, for families that need places to live, that can't afford their own homes right now. This government doesn't have a clue. I was in Invercargill last night. They've got 600 people living in motels right now. 600 people living in motels, and the person that owns the largest hotel wants to turn his hotel back into a proper commercial hotel. So he's taken his rooms out of the stock availability to house families. So there are going to be hundreds of whānau in Invercargill without places to go. They need over 2,000 homes to be built in Invercargill to house families that don't have anywhere to live. And it's, this government is just out of control. So, and the other reason why you need to vote for us is that we will have the backbone to stop them. And not only that, we have fast become the third option, so that you're not wasting your vote. As I've always said, I've got great respect for the other minor parties that exist, and we don't harbour any ill will or any bad feelings towards anyone. We've been disappointed by the way that the minor parties behave towards us. We've created this alliance. I'm a co-leader, so it's never ever been about me being blimmin' the head honcho in any of this. I just want to save our country. But by voting for the Advanced New Zealand Alliance, you're going to be voting for an organisation that's not going to waste your vote, because we are going to slam past the 5% line, and none of the other parties, not one of them can say that with confidence. And I had the giggle of my life the other day, I've got to admit, when the one Network News Colmar Brunton poll came out and I'd been ranked third equal with Winston and David Seymour as preferred Prime Minister, and that's only after 7 weeks. Now, I don't care about polls. What I care about is optics around whether New Zealanders believe that we can defend them and get into Parliament and hold governments accountable. That's so important, Vinny.
It is, and at the moment I have seen a lot of my my YouTubing colleagues and a lot of our minor party colleagues abandon promoting their own parties entirely in favour of attacking you. Now, that's dirty politics. Now, I want to give some context to this. Nikki Haga's book, Dirty Politics, outlined one specific thing that the National Party learned from the US politics system, and that is you attack your enemy. And when you do that, the people who are really, really behind you, they'll get even more behind you. But all the reasonable people, all the people who think, you know, all the people who've got a conscience and things of that nature, they get sworn off politics altogether. And so it leaves only the really, really crazy, really, really angry people left to vote. And if you're the prime attacker, you'll have more of your supporters left than the rest. That's dirty politics, ladies and gentlemen, and it works. Okay, and let's not play that game here at New Zealand Public Party. Let's do precisely what you've been saying this whole time, Billy. Stay calm, be credible, and stick to the facts.
That's exactly right, Vinny. And what's happening is that, and this is what concerns me, is that we have people in the minor parties that have abandoned what they should be focusing on, which is defending New Zealand, by having a go at Jamie Lee Ross and me. You know, and it's just ludicrous. You know, the big enemy that we need to fight is this out of control government. That's number one. That's where our focus is. We really don't care anymore. We had a board meeting this morning, and you know, our numbers are growing every day, Vinny, like unbelievable. We get literally hundreds of people reaching out to us a day, if not thousands a week. We get new members every day, probably average on 100 a day, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on whether we have events or not. The numbers of people that we're reaching, and you're a part of this as well. And we're heading fast to 2 million people that are engaging in with us. And you know, when we post something, you give it a day, everything averages around 20,000. You know, anywhere 10, 15, 20, 25,000. They are the small numbers that we get. But you know, we've got 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 connections, and we haven't even begun any marketing yet, and it starts this week. So, you know, what the other hang-up too that's coming out of this is that you know, the minor parties that are doing this don't realise they're actually making themselves look very, very poorly to their own supporters, and it's working backwards on them. And I don't understand at all the mentality of these guys that they're doing that. And you know, that's why I try and do my best never ever to put anyone down. Why? Because you say more about yourself than you do about the person you're talking about.
Now, just to illustrate one of the points that Billy's making here in terms of party support, this is the party page. This is just this week, ladies and gentlemen. 403,917 post reach, 268,885 views this week on video, 22,000 followers. Okay, that followers there was like on 19,000 or something like that a few days ago. It's been growing nearly 10% per day, and that's just unprecedented.
Oh, absolutely. And then there's my pages. So my personal page was shut down by Facebook because they didn't like what I was broadcasting and saying, as you know, Vinny. That's just become live again, but we created an official page to get round that, and that's got 14,000 followers, and that's got thousands of likes, and it's just you know, it's just crazy. So if you if you can combine the reach of both my page and the party page and then our website, it's just amazing. Like poor Michael Stace, who manages the back end, I mean, that poor guy is literally awake from working from morning till morning every day, just coping with it, just dealing with it, and he gets smashed by literally hundreds of emails and messages. I can't answer them all, as you know, Vinny. My phone is slammed, my inbox and my email is slammed. I've got, well over 300 unanswered emails that I'm trying to work through. I've got something like several thousand Facebook friend requests I can't answer, which really bums me out because I've reached my limit and it just takes too long to do it. I've got probably a couple of thousand unanswered PM messages as well, which upsets me. I can't answer them all, but if I sit down for hours a day answering them, I'm not going to get the job done. We've got 45 days to save New Zealand, and we need to get focused now.
Yeah, and even on my YouTube channel, which is a fraction of what the NZPP page is getting, I have gotten 51,000 more views than usual, 13,000 more hours watched than usual, and 1.1 thousand subscribers more than usual. So it's really palpable, the amount of support that is actually out there, the amount of interest not only within New Zealand but internationally. And the most important part of that point there is the expat vote. There are lots of New Zealanders who left this country over the last few decades because one government or another convinced them, and rightly so, that this country cannot be saved. And now we are having comments all the time that people are deciding that if Billy's winning, we're going to come back. If Billy's standing, we're going to vote. And these are people who haven't voted before in their life in some cases.
That's right, and so I just wanted, there was some really awesome feedback. Thank you everyone for your feedback that I'm seeing coming up on the stream. I really appreciate it. And what's happening is people need to get pragmatic. This is not about me. This is about the country. As I say in my live presentations, Vinny, I've never wanted to be a politician. I only ever wanted to try and educate people about Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, about the geopolitical situation and threat being aimed at us as a free country. And the reason why I got into this was very simple, because no one else was saying the stuff that needed to be said and asking the questions that needed to be answered. That's the only reason I got into this, and the many thousands of New Zealanders that asked me to do this. I was very happy. I was concerned and distressed on my little farm, but I was happy living there quietly. And what people got to realise, that every crappy thing they say about me is just another tick for Labour. That's what it is. That's what it's coming down to, or national, because the minor parties aren't going to cross the line. New Zealand First are gone, and Labour thinks they know that, and I agree with them. I think Winston Peters and New Zealand First, I do believe they're gone. We had a meeting last night in Invercargill. We had about just over 300 people. Some said a lot more than that, but I reckon it's about just over 300 people at it, which was great for a cold Monday night. And a number of people at our event last night were former Winston Peters, and they were at Winston's NZ First meeting a couple of weeks ago in Invercargill. He probably had about 180, 200 people at his event, and many people said that they went along just out of morbid curiosity. They just don't believe him anymore. And Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister, she doesn't believe that NZ First are going to get anywhere, and that's why she's so arrogant towards them, where she said the other day that she's not interested in talking about deals with Winston. All of a sudden, Winston's come out and he's no longer Labour's best friend, and he's trying to convince everybody he can be trusted to defeat Labour, when he was the very guy that threw New Zealand under the bus, and he went with Labour, which has caused everything that we're seeing today. Absolutely everything. He gave them oxygen when they didn't have any, and he went there and he did that. But the secret is, we don't want National in again, because with Judith Collins and at their head, they will be doing the same thing as Red, but they'll be doing it with a different colour jumper on, and that colour is blue. So it doesn't matter if you vote for the devil in pink or the devil in blue. It's the same devil behind behind the scenes, and that's an old saying.
And we're not talking. I would like to point about the literal associations between the devil and Satanists in government who are concealing their religion from the New Zealand public, who will lie, who will cheat, who are raping children, who are trafficking them, using the government departments as a front. And this is the real concern that a lot of people have. Like, Vinny, have you got any evidence for that? And of course, no, I don't, because the family courts and various other government agencies don't have to disclose any of the information. In fact, when David Icke visited New Zealand some years ago, he started calling up New Zealand police stations, asking them how many children were going missing. And they said, oh, we don't have a register of that. You'll have to call up each individual police station in order to find out what the national statistics are. And the huge amount of children that are going missing, ladies and gentlemen, is truly frightening.
Yeah, I mean, look, that is one of a whole bunch of subject matters that need to be closely examined and looked into by an independent third party like us once we get into government. There are a number of concerns that we have. I've got great concerns with Oranga Tamariki, which really is SIFs, but with a Māori name. It always cracks me up, Vinny, when they give these organisations that are absolutely terrible and horrible Māori names to think that gives them some sort of legitimacy. It cracks me up every time. But Oranga Tamariki are very, very disturbing in the way that they treat families that are very good families when they have an agenda to try and pursue at the expense of a private family. A good example of that is the whānau tried to escape detention last week in the COVID-19 quarantine program. Where they were distressed, they had proven negative. I had results today from the lady sent to me that were in question. They've all tested negative again. They can be released. But you know what this government is doing to them? One is that they're going to force the children to be dealt with Oranga Tamariki. They're going to hold them back. They can't go back to Australia because now the poor mother's got to complete a series of tasks to prove that she's a worthy mother, and all this nonsense that's just out of control at the hands of this system that does have many, many issues. But what's required here is a truly independent People's Commission, and I say People's Commission that needs to be a team of investigators that are either proven credible ex-police or Interpol investigators that we can engage on behalf of the New Zealand people to conduct research and investigation with jurisdiction to prosecute and to chase anyone that may require some type of investigation, and if proven guilty, bring them to charges. That's the sort of thing that we need and to have happen so that we can get to the bottom of a number of issues, and that's just one of them that I mentioned with Oranga Tamariki. But, there are just so many issues, Vinny, that really, if we don't get in now in this election, it's just the rabbit hole will get deeper and deeper. And as you know, over the last couple of weeks, Vinny, with my discussions with you off here, we are getting leaked information to us at Advanced New Zealand, New Zealand Public Party, that is just... if the New Zealand public knew what it is that we're being sent by people in government quietly, they'd be out in the streets now, probably uprising on a violent basis. And I don't want that for the life of me. I do not want that. My job is to get things sorted out on a political basis so that we don't degenerate into any type of violent civil unrest. That doesn't mean we can't do peaceful protests if required, because if this government truly wants to lock us down, I think New Zealanders need to wake up and take a stance against that in a peaceful manner. But I suspect, though, that the left, which fuels violence all around the world, would love the opportunity to try and create bloodshed on the streets of New Zealand, and we stand against that. But we do need to stand firm with backbone.
That's right. And somebody commented earlier that the amount of the elders that are actually turning up to support the party is quite significant. And my question was, how long does it take a person on average to figure out everything they've been told their entire life is a lie? According to the analytics on my YouTube channel, it's between 25 and 60 years, according to the analytics. Now, not to mention they're the only generations left that weren't born with a brain-destroying device in their hands, surrounded by Wi-Fi radiation and indoctrinated by communist propaganda from day one in public school and university. In other words, they're the only ones who know any better.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. I mean, we are living in an era where critical thinking is called conspiracy theorism. We live in an era where if you challenge the narrative by governments, you're some sort of extreme person. But that's never the way it's been in the world. It's never the way it's been in history, and let alone New Zealand. We were very proud, independent, free-thinking, critical thinking people here in New Zealand. But what they've done is, they've continuously pumped out in the media that if you ask questions that of such an important nature that they need to be asked, that if it's against the narrative, that you're some sort of fringe person, but we're not. And the secret about the Advanced New Zealand Alliance, we are very, very sensible. As you say, Vinny, we want to be credible, factual, on a firm footing. Our policies are, as you know, number one, getting our democracy reinstated. Number two, bringing in integrity, accountability, transparency in this government, and create a constitutional framework that will defend New Zealanders and protect us. Number three, repairing our economy quickly, stopping the unrestrained spending, getting all the business sectors and productivity and export sectors up and running. The next thing is environmental protection, so that our land can grow beautiful, organic produce and export that overseas at a high value while feeding our own people at a reduced price. We also want medical and health sovereignty for our people, so that people can decide what's best for them and their bodies and their children, whilst having viable alternative options in the form of natural medicine being available to them. And this last one is national independence and sovereignty, without agreements that are going to bind us as a people to things that have no relationship to us in our everyday lives, but affect us if fully implemented in every aspect of our everyday lives. And stopping Chinese Communist Party influence in our business and our political affairs here. It's been proven now that both national, as revealed by Jamie Lee Ross, has been receiving CCP funding. They even had an ex-military intelligence school instructor in the party, and now Labour is under SFO investigation because they've been receiving CCP funding. So it just proves that left and right doesn't matter, because both of them aren't right.
That's correct. What we are talking about is good and evil, right and wrong. This isn't about right and left anymore. And I believe that what we alluded to earlier about Labour and scuppering New Zealand first and stuff like that, it reminds me of Captain America's Civil War. We couldn't destroy any of these parties by ourselves, but what we can do is get them to destroy each other.
That's a classic. I mean, as you know, Vinny, you're a smart cookie and you know how it works. That's exactly how it is. And to be honest, I've even started to think that I've got a strong suspicion that one or two of these people in these minor parties have to be controlled opposition of a kind. Because why the heck would you be attacking us when our whole premise is to save our country? It doesn't make sense. I've tried to look at it every angle I can. I've tried to tell these people I'm not some, arrogant, misogynist, self-centered individual. I'm not like that at all. I mean, ask my wife; she'll tell you how imperfect I am, but she'll tell you what I'm not, and I'm none of those things. My number one concern is saving the future of your baby, Vinny, and my babies, and everyone else's babies, and all future unborn New Zealanders. Because if we don't get it right this time round, then basically, I think it's going to be, a very, very, very fast ride down the slippery slope deep into the rabbit hole.
That's right. And just to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, of my baby, here she is.
My mama loves us. Daddy loves us so much because she's just so cute. All right, that's enough.
She's too beautiful. She must look like mummy.
Oh, yeah. I can't take any credit, honestly. Well, and that was the other thing, please don't ask my wife how imperfect I am, ladies and gentlemen. You won't follow me after that. Anyway, I was thinking about when we're talking about creating a constitution and human rights and that kind of things, we need to be thinking about establishing a protectorate. Now, in a democracy, 51% of people can vote away the rights of the other 49%. In a protectorate, on the other hand, 99% of people can't vote away the rights of the other 1%.
Yeah, that's right. So So what we're doing, we're looking at direct democracy examples all around the world. Actually, so I was going to say country, all around the world at the moment, to find out the best mixture of how good functional democracy works, so that every person in Aotearoa, New Zealand, feels represented and feels that they have a voice that has been heard and respected, and that's really super important to me. Ultimately, though, a good functional pragmatic democracy is where you do acknowledge people and try and facilitate them. But if everybody says we don't want fluoride in the water and 1% says we do, then sorry, 1%, we're not having fluoride in the water. And democracy processes involve, true, non-condescension sort of consultation with people, and that's not what goes on. And I did a short stint in an Auckland Council CCO, council-controlled organisation, and I've never seen such condescending behaviour by the bureaucrats that work there, where they say that they want to consult the public on issues, but they've already had a predetermined decision already, and it's all about ticking a box and saying, hey, we consulted you, and thanks for that, and we'll take it all into consideration, and then they come out with the predetermined decision anyway, and that used to annoy me, and I used to speak up against that all the time. I wasn't interested in wasting people's time and telling them to come and have hui with us and talk, and we have working committees, this and that and the rest of it, just bureaucratic nonsense. But functional democracy, direct democracy, is something I'm deeply interested in, so that we can get the mixture of right and how functional democracy works. But within that comes another deeper implication as well, and that's something that's just called freedoms and rights. Because if you've got freedoms and rights on an individual level, that's what gives the power to democracy.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask, well, what is a right? And the definition of a right is any act that you can commit that doesn't infringe on the rights of other people. The right to not be raped, to be assaulted, to have your land trespassed on, to have your stuff stolen from you, the right to not be defamed. All of these kind of things are incredibly basic. If you don't want it to happen to you and somebody does it to you, then it's violating your rights. Your rights should never be able to be violated, and at the moment New Zealanders feel even afraid to defend themselves when their rights are being violated. They allow themselves to be raped and tortured and destroyed, because if they fought back against their oppressor would oppress them even more. That's the fear that people have got going on right now. And I'd like to illustrate a point that you made before about coming to these decisions when they've already made the decision. It's called the Delphi technique. Named after the prophet of Delphi, who in ancient Egypt told Alexander the Great, oh, you are the greatest, you are the greatest. He told him what he already wanted to hear, right? And this is what happens, ladies and gentlemen. You go in, they say, oh, thank you very much for your consultation, and then they do what they want to do anyway. And this is how scams work. What you do is you keep scamming somebody. Let's say you've got snake oil. You scam them until somebody says, hey, snake oil's a scam. And then you go, oh, no, I'm not selling snake oil anymore. You change the name, you go underground, and then you come back up and you say, I'm now selling primate oil, or I'm now selling lizard oil. And you have all the same claims of snake oil, but it ain't snake oil. So it takes a while for people to realize that the scam is exactly the same thing. And so that way you can continue scamming people basically forever. Now, on the point of the abortion laws that the Labour government and the national government want to pass, did you know that babies, when they are aborted, are sold for medical uses, especially to vaccine companies? And what they do is they grow viruses on your dead baby's organs and things of that nature. This some people know, but what they don't know is that a live baby is worth more for research purposes than a dead one. And now they're going to have the ability to abort them after birth, take those live babies away and subject them to experimentation. That was something that an activist named Frank, he saw our live stream at the Logan Campbell Centre when I was just testing the couple of days before, and he actually ran, he was he ran to the location to actually tell me this fact, and that's something I really wanted to get out there. Now, in terms of protesting, ladies and gentlemen, the concept here is civil disobedience. What if New Zealand Public Party, Advance New Zealand, started actually shutting down this country if we didn't get what we wanted, what could they do with a huge force like ours out there refusing to obey unjust rules?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, what we saw in Berlin a couple of days ago, they got very limited mainstream media exposure and almost none here. Well, none that I'm aware of in New Zealand, proves that people around the world are conducting peaceful protests. I quite often watch the protests in Vancouver that are going on in different places throughout the world. People are waking up in mass, and they are truly out there marching and showing their disdain and their non-compliance for democracy destruction at the hands of these globalist leaders. But what we need to do, mate, is I reckon we need to watch very closely. We need to all be sending in emails to the parliamentary website and emails of all of the MPs in government, including the Prime Minister, saying that we will not tolerate another lockdown. We will not tolerate being forced to endure anything that we don't consent. So what we're going to do is we're drafting our second letter. We did a letter the other week that said we do not consent. And I tell you what, and Jamie Lee Ross let me know this because he was down there, the Beehive email server collapsed because so many people sent emails in saying that they did not consent using our template. It smashed the Beehive, and it was funny because all the MPs were ringing Jamie Lee saying, "Hey man, are you involved with all this? Are you involved with all this?" And he was, and you know, it made it difficult for him that day to get emails because it was every email he got, for, you know, dozens of them in a row, were all I do not consent emails. So we need to do that, but we need to let them know that we're onto the government. We are onto them. We are onto Ashley Bloomfield, the unelected official making decisions that don't make sense based on faulty medical science, as underlined by Professor Simon Thornley from Auckland University. I haven't met Simon yet, but I look forward to it because he's another patriot who is standing up and speaking out in a very controlled and calm way, not too dissimilar to Dr. John Ioannidis, my other mentor and hero from Stanford University.
When you do get him, just give him my number and get him to contact me so I can bring him on the show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I am going to reach out to him. I had started drafting an email to him the other day, actually, but I started and didn't finish it because of how busy life is, but I'm going to get it done because, he's like, he's the New Zealand equivalent of Rashid Buttar, Dr. John Ioannidis, and lots of other scientists around the world that have blown the lid on the dishonesty and unfactual basis that the COVID-19 crisis has been dealt with. And this is the thing that we've got to remember, folks, is that, COVID-19 virus, yes, it appears real, but is what we've got to be focused on is what the consequences are that are emanating from this whole COVID-19 crisis, because it's that they're using to destroy democracy, to bring in the very programs that they wish to implement on us at our expense, and we can't stand for it. In terms of this lockdown, if they try and lock us down before the elections, I'm deeply concerned that that's going to be how Labour is going to rig things far more in their favour than they will be. And I say that very seriously because the narrative around we need, second lockdown, it's not. She said it the other day, and it was pointed out by Heather du Plessis. She said that. How did she put it? She said, that's right. She questioned the Prime Minister and said, the Prime Minister one day said, if we lock down, and the very next day she said, when we lock down. And she was on to the Prime Minister, and she went hard on her own show. She went online with it and said there's something like that smells like a giant dead rat going on in the Beehive, and she's completely right. And this is a mainstream journalist, bless her soul, that's picked up on it. And what we need to do is let them know that we're on to them and we're not going to stand for it, because I'm deeply concerned that the complicit media here, saying that Jacinda's polling 60%, I don't believe a second of that, not from what we're hearing from people. Well, last night we had an entire family from Dunedin drive down, all of them being Labour supporters who wanted to check me out and see what I was saying and see for themselves if it was true. The whole family followed by the rest of their family, deregistering as Labour members. They're going to join us and they're going to vote us because, they're onto it. Labour supporters are waking up in mass all across New Zealand. How do we know it? Because they're getting in touch with us and they're coming to our events. Same as the NZ First supporters. When we did Tauranga, about a month ago, 700 people squeezed into a 600-person room stadium that we were using, and a lot of them were NZ First supporters, and they no longer are.
The question here is, do you feel alone, ladies and gentlemen, and is the existence of Billy and the Advanced New Zealand Public Party actually stopping that sensation from happening? Do you no longer feel socially isolated? Do you no longer feel socially distanced because there is somebody like you? There is somebody who's saying the things that you're thinking. That's what gives people hope, and hope is a flame that will burn across this country, and it will scorch the earth. Now, I do believe that also the term controversy comes into mind here because it's often used and very few people know the definition of it. Controversy is a piece of information that will force you to change the way you live your life. Okay, and that's what we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen. We are giving you pieces of information that are actually going to force you, yes you, not us, not the government, to change the way you live your life. Okay, living in truth is not something that you should leave to other people. You need to do it yourself and in your own ways, and that is the very reason why New Zealand Public Party has become so massive so quickly, because people have taken personal responsibility around this country for hosting the events and putting them on. And I believe that you, Billy, have also been incredibly surprised and unbelievably overwhelmed by the amount of people who are actually putting their boots on the ground, doing the work and getting the job done. This has not ever happened before. And just before we jump to you as well, I wanted to express my admiration for Jamie Lee Ross being the first official anti-communist member of Parliament in the last 30 years. And now people are saying that he's working for China, that you're working for China. Actually, we're the only ones who aren't.
I know, it's crazy, but you know what, I've got to say, that's one thing the trolls have really stopped hammering me about, is anything to do with this secret agent of the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, it's just, it's actually very childish and very silly. The latest one was when I was sitting at the at Moana's interview at Te Ao at Māori TV. I was sitting there. See, when you do public speaking, they teach you to when you stand, to hold your hands like that, right? And I don't know if you can see that. I'll try and put my hand up, see if that comes up like that. Now, I was sitting there like that because I was public speaking and I had my hands in, and you don't want to look like an egg with your hands flopping around. So I had my hands like that. So immediately that becomes, someone said what it was and I had no idea what it was. It's something like the golden triangle of Freemasonry. Now, I've never seen that, and I've studied Freemasonry for a long time. I've never seen that ever. I've seen all the other handshakes and all that, but that's one of them I haven't seen before. So that was that. You learn something every day. But immediately, people are so scared. They think, oh heck, that's a Freemasonry sign. Of course, it's not. We are dead against it, and I lecture against Freemasonry. And in fact, I've had a couple of times recently where at big presentations, people are asking me really good questions about Freemasonry that I addressed. I met a very scholarly man in New Plymouth who wanted to ask about Freemasonry, and basically what he didn't reveal at the time, this guy was a Freemasonry scholar. He'd studied it for years and years, an older gentleman, and he was asking me all these questions, and then at the end of it, he gave me the tick and said, "Pass, you've got it right." He goes, "I've been studying this topic for decades and decades and decades, and you've got it right." So I do lecture very hardcore against against Freemasonry. But to be clear, like you said the other day, Vinny, the lower degrees in Freemasonry are nothing. It's kind of like a Lions Club environment. People don't know what the core of the initiate Freemasonry is about. It's about Luciferianism, as you know, in the top, and also when you get into the Shiner ranks, it's about the worship of Allah, and not but it's Allah, the blood god, the sacrificial human sacrificial deity, who was married to the moon goddess, who had the three daughters of Allah, and that pre-existed Mohammedism, which obviously started in the mid 7th century with the rise of Muhammad and his march into Medina. So, all the stuff sort of adds up as a very interesting topic, but you don't want to get distracted, because we know that these very, very, very strange things happening in the world, they are real, but our number one objective is to deal with what we know right in front of us, and we know that we've got a government right now that has written the COVID-19 health response bill. They've got a system of quarantine management that's been managed by the military, these military security forces that manage the security for these COVID-19 quarantine facilities, and we now know from cabinet papers they want to do 85 roadblocks across New Zealand using military personnel, and also they want to use them in door-to-door knocking and testing. How do I know that? Because see this phone here? I've got military documents that have been leaked to me. That's how I know, and they planned it from the 25th of March, whānau, and that's what we're dealing with, these guys, and we just can't stand for it, and we need to make sure that if they do try to lock us down before the elections, that we better bloody stand up and get out there and let them know that we're not going to stand it. And you're right, Vinny, I believe that if all of New Zealand starts to get wind of this, the thing that'll make people truly wake up is a lockdown of the nature that they're talking about before the elections, because it won't smell right, even to someone who's got a blocked nose and their head in the sand.
And information is often compartmentalised. People who think that every Freemason is evil, or the second you come into Freemason they tell you all the secrets. Are these the same kind of people who believe that as soon as you become a fry cook at KFC, Colonel Sanders comes and gives you a handshake and tells you what the secret recipe is? I don't think so, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be naive. Information is compartmentalised. Now, the reason why there's so much confusion about this is because they haven't actually been at the highest levels. They haven't gone into the old libraries of Freemasonry and literally pulled out dusty tomes and blown off the dust and then looked at the things. Now, on this channel, you can search Frater X, Frater space X, the letter, and you go listen to Frater X's interviews on this show, and ladies and gentlemen, he knows what he's talking about. Member of 9 different secret societies, and he's been through the rigmarole, and he is probably, in my opinion, the number one information source on Freemasonry in this world. Wrote a book called The Secret War Inside Freemasonry that showed its infiltration by the Scottish Rite in the late 1800s, whereas once it used to be a means to initiate young men into being real men, now it is a means of initiating young people into becoming Luciferian. Now, let's talk about trolls as well. I started off this live stream today on Facebook telling people that according to Psychology Today, trolls are narcissists, psychopaths, and sadists. They need but one thing from you: attention. Negative, positive, doesn't matter. They want your attention. They want you arguing with them. They want you feeling offended. They want you replying to them. They want you being angry with them. They want you to give them any kind of attention. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you block it all out. Stay positive, stay hopeful, stick to the facts, be calm, just like Billy is providing this good example.
Yeah, thank you for that, Vinny. I just saw a really good question there from someone, his name's just escaped me, and that is, he was saying, why don't we leak this information that we have here to the press? I'm just trying to work out how to do that so that there is absolutely no backbiting on the person that's given it to me, because there are some absolute patriotic people in the government and the military that they know what's going on and they don't like it. They can see it a mile away, and what I've got to do, I've got to get together with all my advisors as soon as possible. I've had this now for about a week, and upset on it. And it's given me a couple of sleepless nights, I've got to admit, just thinking about how the heck to deal with it, how to release it, how to get it out there. What is the backlash going to be for the person? I don't care about myself. My name's already out there. They know who I am and what I'm doing on there. But this brother that sent it to me, I do not want him for any reason to have any kickback. He is a career soldier. He's a family man, and I love and respect him deeply. And the last thing I want to do is see him lose everything. So I'm just working through that at the moment. And while I'm on the subject of military, I had a really neat lady the other day email me a message from a Facebook post of a troll saying that I had claiming that I'd never been in the army, that I'd said I was a Special Forces soldier, which I've never ever said. I'm proud of my service, but I wasn't in the Special Forces. I was as I've always said, I did my courses with the introductory courses in the Military Intelligence Corps as a precursor to going into Corps training. I completed those courses successfully. I did my tour of duty with the military police down in Trentham Army Camp under Major Bede Fahey. I did all of that, and this neat lady reached out to me, and she showed me this troll that had basically said, hey, he's never been in that. Well, you know what? One of my friends who's a mentor of mine, he's an older gentleman, he's ex New Zealand SAS Tier 1 soldier. He got my army service records for me and emailed them to me yesterday. So I've got them. I'm going to go home and digitize all of my military records of service and all that. But so that just goes to show you the level that people go through. This one particular troll, she actually wrote the NZPP. I've actually got a copy of the letter itself asking for proof that I've been in the military, which they gave her, and I've got the copy of that letter. I've got the copy of the record confirmation of service. I've got the confirmation of the letter from the NZPP and the letter from the person that sent that in, and that's it's unbelievable. We got to come together and defeat this blinking government. Not worried about. I thought I'd covered that actually in one of your shows recently when I pulled out my military ID and showed that, but still that's just, they just keep going. But you know what, as you say, Vinny, and I'm saying this to people in our team, grow a thick skin, grow a bit of manliness and womanliness, and ignore the stuff and stay focused on the job. We got 45 days, Vinny, 45 days.
Countdown to victory is what I call it. And I believe that the concept of winning is something that people have been unfamiliar with for the last 50 years in this country. The people have not won a single election. The New World Order has won every single election since the time of Robert Muldoon.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny at the moment. Talk about information that's been shared with you. I actually had an amazing email from a gentleman that I'm so grateful for. I'm going to email him, and he had bullet pointed for me all of the happenings throughout all of the governments that we've had since Norman Kirk till now that has led to the tyranny that we are seeing today. He has categorically laid out every piece of corporate deal, every piece of information around deals with the United Nations, how Norman Kirk tried to protect New Zealand. It spoke out and said, no, we're not going down this way, and next minute, he's dead. That's what happened to to poor Norman Kirk, and it looks like to me that he may have been the very last of the truly independent prime ministers. I think David Lange could have been a good man. I went to school with Roy Lange. He was a neat kid who was David Lange's son.
I can actually back that up because the last interview that David Lange had before his death was with the editor of Uncensored magazine, Jonathan Eisen, where he completely recounted all of his work that he did in Parliament, and that he realised that he was at that time a puppet for the New World Order.
Oh, really? Yeah. It doesn't surprise me because his family were really, really nice. I was good friends with his son Roy. Actually, Roy and I formed a band at Aotearoa College in Papatoi there, and he was a neat dude. Couldn't play guitar to save himself, but he was cool.
Now, the last thing people have been asking for evidence of the hitman. People have been asking for evidence that you sent a letter to the Māori King resigning, and I think those are the last two bits of evidence. They've accused you of everything under the sun, and every time the evidence comes out, they don't apologise and backstep. They just come up with new allegations. So basically, in order to satisfy them, you'd have to prove everything that you say. Like, for example, if you say you're a man, you'd have to have your birth certificate that says male on it. If you it just seems a little bit desperate at this point.
Oh, it is. Look, it is, Vinny. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. And I'm just not going to play the game anymore. I really, those guys that do that. I mean, they are typically. And I'll say this, we've had leaked emails from Outdoors Party sent to us of their board meeting notes and agenda points. We've got it all listed. We've got information from other parties as well that have been sent to us of the discrediting campaigns they were planning. I don't really care about any of that anymore. I'm concerned with one thing, that's protecting your beautiful your little baby girl, my kids and their kids, and all people of New Zealand from this tyranny that we're seeing here, because it's as real as I am sitting here. And there she is again. She must look like mum. And, that's the only thing that's why I'm doing this. I'm not doing it for fame. I'm not doing it for glory. There is no glory. We're up at 4:30 this morning to catch a plane to fly up from Invercargill to Wellington to Nelson. It's tiring. I'm stuffed. I've got bags in my eyes. I look terrible. Lucky my wife takes me as I am. I've got my wife and family with me because we wanted to get them off the farm for security reasons. And I've got two security advisors. One of them, the gentleman that looked after me in Christchurch, I'm going to have a chat with him to see if he might be able to do a closet interview with you of some kind. He was the guy that took great care of us in Christchurch, and he watches you too, Vinny, and he's probably watching this now. That's my mate Mark, I can say his first name. And but I can assure you it was absolutely real. And it was funny because Lee from Crossing the Rubicon was there when it all was going down. He got to see it and smell it, and now he's coming out and saying, oh no, it wasn't what I thought, and he's changed his mind again. He thinks I'm a communist Chinese super secret agent again, I think. But all that stuff is we had another board meeting today. We're just not gonna do that thing.
Yeah, it's over, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I've been trying to catch you out every single interview on issue after issue after issue, and you just answer the questions like.
Well, you know a con artist though, because when I'm talking to people, and I've been working in bars since I was a kid, when you meet shysters and hustlers, you just know. And I met some people last night. I actually had a couple of people that came up to me last night, two of them, and they looked at me fair square in the eye, shook my hand and said, Billy, we were wrong about you. Both of them had come last night in Invercargill to try and discredit me or try and have a go at me, and at the end of it they came and shook my hand and they said, I'm sorry, Billy, we were wrong. And I said, well, that's why I always say to people, come to the events, meet me, look at me in the eye, feel me up close, because that's when you know whether you're dealing with a con artist and a bullcrap artist. That's when you really know. I don't reckon these, the broadcasts that I do, I think they're okay, but you really need to look someone in the eye. Kandohi ki te kandohi, face to face, eyeball to eyeball, to see where someone's coming out. And that's why, and that's why when I met you last week, Vinny, for the first time, I couldn't believe you were a giant, didn't know that. And, but, being able to look you in the eye as well, which is why I'm very pleased to be working with you.
Thanks, brother. And also on that point, over here, ladies and gentlemen, this is the New Zealand election series, Who Are You Really Voting For playlist. And the very first episode up there is Exposed, proof that all New Zealand Prime Ministers are globalists. Does your vote really count? And what we've done here, myself and journalist Ben Vidgen, before the last election, we went through every single party and all previous Prime Ministers and exposed all their globalist connections, ladies and gentlemen. So if you think there is any choice out of this new world order but Advance New Zealand and Billy TK, I'm unfortunately going to have to inform you after you go and watch that playlist, ladies and gentlemen, there is but one choice.
Yeah, thank you, Vinny. And that's the other thing is I always say that I don't like polls and I don't trust them, but it's always cute and fun when you see Advance New Zealand sitting at the top of these polls and all that. But, again, I just want to say I have to sign off, Vinny. But before I do is I just want to say again to the minor parties out there is no ill will in our hearts, in our group. Our door is open for all of the parties to come in behind us and be part of us and with us, and we all sail in together to Parliament. We want to take your policies and that you stand for, because they're the same things that we do. There's no ego on our side that way. We just want to welcome everyone. Jamie Lee Ross is a very, very smart and good young man. Yes, like me, he's made his mistakes in his past. No one is beyond that, beyond reproach, that's for sure. But he's a very, very smart critter, and with his guidance and with the sheer size of the organic movement that we have behind us, we want to go into Parliament, and we want to help you to do that as well. Don't waste your money. Don't waste the vote of your supporters that are in that niche silo of yours. Come and join us. You don't have to. You won't be condescended to. You'll be respectfully a part of it, and we'll take you in just as you are, and we'll work together to defend our country. So I just want to thank you again for today, Brother Vinny. I do have to go. I've got 15 minutes to get to my first big meeting today. So love to everyone.
Peace out. Cheers, brother.
Peace out, bro.
See ya.
See ya.
All right, there he goes, Billy TK from the Advance New Zealand Public Party. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the Vinny Eastwood Show. He actually gave us an extra 10 minutes of his time, so really grateful for that. Now, bear in mind that this is a listener-supported broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, so if you do value the help and support that I'm giving to the Advance New Zealand Public Party, you can go to thevinnyeastwoodshow.com. That's Vinny with a Y, because it's the most important question, or Eastwood, like go ahead, make my news. And on the homepage there are PayPal buttons, our KiwiBank details, and also we would like people to sign up to Patreon if you can, please. So in the description of this video there are links to all of that and ways to support the broadcast. And of course, obligatory, I'm just going to play this little video again of my little baby with its cuteness, just to give you a little bit of that extra motivation. This is what I'm fighting for, and this is what the future looks like, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't she cute? It still gets me every time. I love it. It's so sweet. It's my baby. Oh, I do love it so much. And yeah, Billy's right. I haven't. I can't claim credit for how cute she is. It's all my wife, really. Now, Dorito Dream has just said money on its way. Vinny, love to you and your family. Thanks for what you do. Thank you so much for that. Now the question is, where is the? Sorry, I have to right myself just for a second here. What are we going to do? Benny Mac would like me to do the old sign out, so I will give you the regular sign out, ladies and gentlemen, is thank you very much for listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show. I am not a credible journalist. I'm an incredible journalist. But just for you, Benny, I'm going to do the old-fashioned sign out here. What was it? Thank you very much for listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show, the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't make it fun. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state is Vinny's jokes. So that's the old one for you guys. I just had to do that to appease my mods because they volunteer and do so much work in the background of the show here, keeping out the riff-raff, and I really am grateful to all of you guys, because you guys do all of this for free, and that's just, yeah. And all I can give you is my thanks. All I can give you is my gratitude. and I'm traditionally speaking a fairly, what would you call me? Ungrateful SOB, I think is the most accurate terminology for the kind of person I am. I'm just so ungrateful all the time for what people have done to support me over the years. You know, I've been doing this for a dozen years, forged relationships with some of the best thinkers and activists from around the world, and 5 days a week, ladies and gentlemen, 1 hour a day, I am bringing that that network here to this show. We're talking about experts in every single thing that I can think of that the New Zealand Public Party and Advanced New Zealand need to know and have in their tool chest, and this means you, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a party member, or if you're not a party member yet, we'd really love you to sign up and get that one done. Now, also, I wanted to go back a little bit, and just before we sign off here, we are just over the 1 hour mark, but I want to just quickly show you this Facebook status this morning. A real fast way for NZPP to grow our Facebook following is for you, yes you, to invite your friends. We have nearly 20,000 likes, and when we make it over 250,000, I'll edit that in a second, we will be New Zealand's #1 most liked political party. Currently it's Labour with I think 157,000, so we need 260,000 at least if we want to be more liked than they are. So what you've got to do is you've got to go to this link, the public party page. There are links in the description to this video if you want to do there, and scroll down to the invite friends bit and invite everyone you can, and please share this post on your timeline and groups. First they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win, according to Gandhi. #we can win. And I believe that, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't had that belief in a long, long time, but now I do. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show. I am not a credible journalist. I'm an incredible journalist.